I'm Chen Jianjin's secretary, and also his fiancé. He never allowed our relationship to be public at the company, yet he openly took me home to meet his parents, that is, until I saw him, eyes rimmed red, pinning his sister-in-law against the wall, his hoarse voice trembling as he said, "Zhu Xining, aren't you jealous? If you don't turn back now, I'm really going to marry her." It suddenly dawned on me why Chen Jianjin hadn't shed a single tear when I fell from a height of 10 meters half a year ago. It wasn't that he couldn't cry, he just wouldn't waste tears on someone who didn't matter. I returned the ring and said calmly, "I'm calling off the wedding." At the company, aside from Chen Jianjin's assistant, no one knew about our relationship. Just before quitting time, Assistant Li sent me a message, "Shuyi, Mr. Chen wants you to come back to the old family house for dinner tonight." I replied, "Okay." I waited for an hour at the foot of the company building, but Chen Jianjin never showed up. A bitter wind whipped up without mercy, and I was shivering from the cold as I called Chen Jianjin. "Are you on your way?" A woman answered the phone, her voice soft and gentle. "Hello, Jianjin is driving right now. I'll have him call you back in a moment." I was taken aback for a second, then a mechanical click sounded, and the call was disconnected. I hailed a cab and rushed to the Chen family's old estate. When Chen Jianjin's parents saw me, their faces were beaming with smiles. This wasn't my first time meeting the elderly couple. The Chen family was a prominent, well-established clan. Chen Jianjin's father was a businessman, and his mother was a university professor, making them something of a family of scholars and refinement. When Chen Jianjin first suggested taking me home to meet his parents, I was nervous for a long time, terrified that we'd end up in some dramatic scene where his parents would offer me $1 million to leave him. It wasn't what I had imagined. His mother was gentle and kind, and she didn't look down on my working-class parents or my ordinary upbringing. Mrs. Chen took my hand and asked, "Where's Jianjin? Why didn't he come with you?" Before I could answer, he walked right in. He was accompanied by a woman, whose smile was gentle and whose voice was soft and warm as she said, "Mom, Dad, Mrs." Chen's eyes darted between the two of them, her brow furrowed for just an instant before smoothing out again, and she said with a smile, I'm here." The woman took off her wool coat, and Chen Jianjin smoothly took it from her, hanging it on the coat rack. Their movements were fluid and in perfect sync. It was as if they had performed this little ritual 1,000 times before. Even after 3 years with Chen Jianjin, we never developed this kind of rapport. When Chen Jianjin took the coat, the woman was taken aback. Chen Jianjin shrugged his shoulders and looked down at her. "What's wrong?" The woman shook her head with a gentle smile. "It's nothing, Mrs. Chen took my arm and began the introduction, her expression hesitant. "Shuyi, this is Jianjin's wife. Her name is Zhu Xining." As the words hung in the air, Chen Jianjin's expression darkened. He seemed displeased with that answer. Jianjin's older brother passed away. While washing my hands in the restroom, with only Chen Jianjin and me present, I began to speak. "Why didn't you come pick me up tonight?" Chen Jianjin lowered his head, slowly washing his slender hands. His voice was low. "There were too many people at the office. You don't want our colleagues to see us, do you?" He gave me a casual glance. "Chen Jianjin and I could probably win an Oscar. It's pretty rare for a couple to be together for 3 years without any of our co-workers catching on. Is he just that good of an actor, or am I exceptionally talented?" At the dinner table, Mrs. Chen brought over a plate of seafood and placed it right in front of Zhu Xining. "Go ahead, Xining." Zhu Xining looked embarrassed, her chopsticks pausing in mid-air. Chen Jianjin, however, quietly moved the plate of seafood to the other side. "You're allergic to seafood, don't eat too much, Mrs. Chen said with an apologetic smile. "Oh, is Xining allergic to seafood? Mom doesn't know." The meal passed in complete silence. 2. Waking in the night, she found the man beside her was gone. I went downstairs to get a glass of water, only to see 2 figures locked in an embrace. Under the moonlight, Chen Jianjin's tall, slender figure stood out. He pressed forward, pinning the woman against the wall. His gaze lowered to meet hers. I pinched myself hard, wondering if I was still dreaming. If the pain weren't so real, I wouldn't have believed it. In the moonlight and the glow from the street lamp outside the window, I could clearly see Chen Jianjin's expression. The corners of his eyes were damp, and his eyelids were slightly reddened. The person he had pinned against the wall was Zhu Xining. Zhu Xining seemed to have been crying. With tears still clinging to the corners of her eyes, Chen Jianjin raised his hand, using his fingertip to gently wipe the tear from the corner of her eye. His voice was hoarse, trembling slightly as he spoke. Zhu Xining, are you leaving again this time? Why won't you look back at me? If you don't turn back now, I'm really going to marry her. Zhu Xining didn't answer directly, her shoulders trembled slightly, her voice choked with sobs. Jianjin, I'm cold. Chen Jianjin took off his coat and draped it over her, looking down and noticing she was barefoot. I fetched the plush slippers from the cabinet and knelt to slip them onto her feet. Those plush slippers were the ones I had brought to the Chen household. It wasn't until I felt the chill that I looked down and realized I had forgotten to put on my own shoes. This was the first time I had ever seen Chen Jianjin cry. It's been 3 years together. On the anniversary of his brother's death, he was in a somber mood, just drinking steadily with a stony face, not shedding a single tear. When a mole nearly drained the company's finances, he handled it with the same impassive, calm composure. Last year, when I fell 10 meters while skiing, a flicker of panic crossed his eyes as he rushed into the hospital room, but he composed himself almost instantly. He had only been at the hospital for a morning before leaving in a hurry. As he left, his face was etched with a frantic anxiety. It was the first time I'd ever seen the word fear written across his features. He was always unflappable in a crisis, but a single phone call threw him into a panic. In his haste to leave the hospital room, he accidentally knocked over my water glass, and now, through his tears, he was asking Zhu Xining if she would ever consider coming back to him. I wiped the tears from the corner of my eye, ran my fingers over the ring on my hand, then slipped it off and into my pocket. When I returned to the bedroom, Chen Jianjin still hadn't come back. I exchanged contact information with Zhu Xining over dinner. I scrolled through her social media feed. Her feed was sparse, so I breezed through it quickly. Not like me, I'm always chattering away, sharing every little thing. Truth be told, I only post to get Chen Jianjin's attention. I remember it clearly. The day I was hospitalized after my fall last year was my birthday. So when I was scrolling through Zhu Xining's social media and saw she had posted around this time last year, I paid special attention. That day, her IP address was geolocated in Mexico. The post read, "Almost got caught in a smash and grab, scared the life out of me." The photo revealed the corner of a man's suit jacket. Chen Jianjin's suits are bespoke, each bearing his initials. That's how I knew for sure it was him in the picture. So that day, he had panicked and left me behind to fly overseas overnight because Zhu Xining was nearly robbed abroad. As I touched the ring, my heart sank. Even his proposal to me was just another part of his game with Zhu Xining. 3. I drifted in and out of sleep all night. When I got to the office, the female colleagues at the reception desk gathered around me. "Shuyi, did you see that?" Puzzled, I followed my colleague's gaze. Snow began to fall outside. It came on so suddenly that many people hurried indoors. Chen Jianjin got out of the car, walked around to the passenger door, and placed his hand on the door frame to prevent the woman from bumping her head. The person getting out of the car was Zhu Xining. When I left the Chen residence this morning, I didn't let Chen Jianjin give me a ride. He would only ever say, "There are too many people at the company. We agreed not to make our relationship public." Wow, could it be the company is about to get a new lady of the house? Come on, Shuyi, spill the tea. Got any inside scoop? I heard Mr. Chen is getting married. Is that true? I nodded with a smile. Probably, yeah. When the topic of marriage came up, a colleague asked me, "By the way, Shuyi, didn't your boyfriend propose to you? You even posted the ring on your social media. Why aren't you wearing it today?" I glanced at my bare fingers and said, "I'm not going through with it." The colleague was stunned for a moment. In the distance, Chen Jianjin's usually cold and detached expression only ever softened with a hint of warmth when he was with Zhu Xining. He handed his keys to the valet, then opened a black umbrella, tilting it deliberately towards Zhu Xining. The fine snow was gathering on his shoulders. Chen Jianjin caught sight of the group gathered together. His cool gaze fell upon us, entirely different from the look he gave Zhu Xining. The man's expression grew slightly more reserved as he took in every reaction. I looked at him, he looked at me, his eyes utterly calm. His gaze settled on me. "Aren't you supposed to be at work, Assistant Wen?" He glanced down at his wristwatch. 10 minutes late and you lose your perfect attendance bonus. Meeting in 1 hour. With a rustle, everyone returned to their posts. A colleague muttered under their breath, "It's true, the richer a man is, the more devoted and loyal he tends to be. I let out a soft chuckle as I looked down to organize the documents. Well, 7 years of harboring a secret crush on my sister-in-law. I suppose that counts as devotion, doesn't it? The meeting is in an hour. I need to start preparing right now. I need to prepare the meeting materials, schedule the time, and coordinate with all the departments. After handling all the procedures, I noticed the water cooler jug was empty. I took down the empty bucket. Just as I was about to haul the new bucket up, Chen Jianjin rolled up his sleeves, revealing a pale stretch of skin where the veins in his forearm faintly surfaced as he exerted himself. He said, "I'll carry it." I ignored his words, gritted my teeth, and heaved the bucket into place. Seeing that I had managed it, he gave a slight nod of approval. At CHE Group, positions undergo a major reshuffle every year. While changes at the top are minimal, competition for all other roles is fierce, requiring candidates to pass a series of rigorous assessments. It wasn't until after Chen Jianjin had left that I was informed I'd need to think on my feet in the upcoming meeting, competing against another newcomer. I was in disbelief when I heard the news. Before I could even process it, the meeting began. The topic was set by Chen Jianjin. I took a deep breath and stood at the head of the conference table, my hands trembling slightly. After I finished my answer, Chen Jianjin posed another sharp question that left me completely speechless. In contrast, Zhu Xining's response was far more mature and fluent than mine. Chen Jianjin rested his loosely clasped hands on his lap, his long legs crossed, and narrowed his eyes. "Secretary Wen, after 3 years, you can't even measure up to a newcomer." That remark was absolutely devastating. He showed me no mercy at all. My colleagues, who had been whispering amongst themselves, fell completely silent. In that moment, it suddenly hit me that he and I were from completely different worlds. Sitting there in the audience, he could dismiss everything about me with a casual remark. Just like our relationship, in the dead of night, he's the one steering the ship in this game of love, whether in bed or out of it, in matters of the heart, or in the workplace. His words are cutting. A single offhand remark can pierce me to my very core. I remember 2 years ago, when I gave my first promotion presentation, I failed. I was laughing through my tears, hoping for his comfort, but he told me, "Shuyi, that's just how the law of the jungle works. If you're not good enough, you'll be weeded out." I stopped crying and asked him, "If I'm your girlfriend, can't you give me the inside scoop?" The corner of his mouth lifted in a faint smile, but he said nothing. That was the first lesson I learned in that relationship. Chen Jianjin is decisive and ruthless in the workplace. He handles things with a touch of warmth, but only a touch. He's never been one to act on emotion, and he wouldn't give me special treatment just because I was his girlfriend. I applied what he taught me to my own work, and it wasn't long before I got a promotion and a raise. For, this time, when I failed the assessment, I didn't break down in tears. After it was over, Assistant Li maintained a professional, business-like smile as she introduced them to me. "This is Zhu Xining. This is Wen Shuyi. Shuyi, the competition just got a lot tougher this time. Xining just got back from New York. You'd be a fool to underestimate her." Zhu Xining extended her hand, looking at me with an air of absolute confidence. "I'm so pleased we'll be rivals. You're going to need to bring your A-game." Since Zhu Xining was new, we organized a little get-together in private to break the ice. Everyone was a bit tipsy, and I called Chen Jianjin from the restroom. The line was busy, I couldn't get through, so I gave up. Zhu Xining, her cheeks flushed from drink, sobbed quietly into the phone. "Why aren't you here to pick me up yet? Don't you want me anymore?" Soon, a black G-Class SUV was concealed within the night. The man got out of the car and walked towards the drunken Zhu Xining. For a moment, Zhu Xining looked dazed upon seeing Chen Jianjin, then ran to him in tears. Chen Jianjin opened his arms and pulled her into an embrace. "Don't cry." Amidst the office gossip, Chen Jianjin looked up. Our eyes met for a moment. He helped Zhu Xining into the car and took my arm. "Secretary Wen, please join us in the car." I shook my head with a smile. "I won't disturb you." 5. Downstairs in the residential complex, I saw the lights were on at home. I sat downstairs for a long time, fishing the ring from my pocket with a soft sigh. In the end, this ring was never meant to be mine. I carefully tucked the ring back into its velvet box. Chen Jianjin had changed into his pajamas, his damp hair clinging to his forehead. Looking as if he'd arrived well before me, after washing up, I slowly made my way back to bed, and he suddenly wrapped his arm around my waist. I felt a warm touch on my lips, the distinct scent of a man lingering faintly in the air. His fingertip rested against my lips. Suddenly, I shoved him away and switched on the light. He looked at me. What's wrong? Not happy today? It suddenly occurred to me that he would always call out Ning Ning in moments of deep affection, so it was Zhu Xining. And another thing, he never kisses me. Today was the first time he kissed me on his own, but I pushed him away. I whispered, Chen Jianjin, I'm not Zhu Xining. His brow furrowed slightly, as if he hadn't heard me. 6. Parting ways with Chen Jianjin was easy enough, but I really couldn't bear the thought of leaving his mother behind. No matter what, Mrs. Chen's kindness towards me was genuine. The next morning, I sat at the dining table waiting for Chen Jianjin. Chen Jianjin, let's break up. I ate my breakfast slowly, without even looking up. The ring sat on the other side of the table. After finishing the toast, I wiped my mouth. I pointed at the red velvet box. I've taken the ring off. I'd like you to give mine back, too. Chen Jianjin gave a tight-lipped smile. Shuyi, we've been together for 3 years. Do you really think we can just break up that easily? Over the past 3 years, Chen Jianjin never once brought up breaking up with me. I was the one who initiated our 3 big fights. The third time we broke up, I was the one who caved in again. A faint smirk played on Chen Jianjin's lips, as if my talk of breaking up was nothing serious to him. He sat across from me, meticulously peeling an orange. Shuyi, some games lose their charm when played too often. Think it over carefully. The third time we were on the verge of breaking up, Chen Jianjin told me, 3 strikes and you're out. His principle for handling any matter at work was the same, 3 strikes and you're out. Anything beyond that would try his patience. On the way to the parking lot, Chen Jianjin was leaning against his car. When he saw me, he looked up and said, let me give you a ride today. I politely declined. I'm not going to the office today. Assistant Li has assigned me other work. Chen Jianjin gave up. Under the light, the man's skin appeared pale, and the line of his jaw was clean and sharp. Zhu Xining texted me to make a bet that even if she made a mistake at work, Chen Jianjin wouldn't let her go. Even if I did nothing wrong, Chen Jianjin would still make me leave. She asked me if I believed it. Of course I believed it, but not because I was spinelessly giving in to her. It's because those who are loved always act with a sense of entitlement. After waiting for her all this time, wasn't Chen Jianjin's whole purpose just to have her stay by his side, for 3 years? I've always clocked in at work 10 minutes early, never daring to be late or leave early. This is the first time I've ever been late. Assistant Li didn't assign me any other work. I simply didn't want to see Chen Jianjin. That's all. I got to the office really late. A colleague came over and asked, Shuyi, why are you late? Mr. Chen was just here looking for you. It was so scary. I made up a story and said you were in the restroom. An hour later, he came back. Surprisingly, he didn't get angry. He just wants you to go to his office. I called Chen Jianjin using the office phone, and all he said was, come up to my office. I need to talk to you. After a moment's thought, I replied, Mr. Chen, I'm quite busy at the moment. If there's something, just get to the point. After hanging up, I buried myself in the paperwork on my desk. Suddenly, the light overhead was blocked. A crisp, clean scent enveloped the air as a man's low voice spoke, Shuyi. I had been so absorbed in the document that his voice startled me. I clutched my chest, taking a moment to recover. 7. I pointed at the documents on the desk and asked with a frown, can't you see, I'm busy? Chen Jianjin was taken aback for a moment. All right, I'll come find you after work. My colleagues were taken aback by my tone and asked in surprise, Shuyi, are you jumping ship? Did a rival company poach you? How dare you talk to him like that? I said with a smile, no, of course not. A colleague asked, so, are you resigning? I gave a slight nod. Yes, I'm planning to resign. You need to submit your resignation notice a month in advance. I've already handed in my resignation letter. My phone chimed with a notification. Chen Jianjin had sent me a message. I have him saved in my contacts as a... I secretly checked the name he has me saved under in his phone. It's just my full name. When Shuyi, seeing that note left me feeling a little deflated. Why is it that even after we've been so intimate, our relationship never seems to get any warmer? Chen Jianjin likes every single one of Zhu Xining's WeChat Moments posts, but he hardly ever likes any of mine. I hesitated for a moment when I saw his message. Wait for me at the company entrance. I put the message out of my mind, until the sky outside grew dark, the phone rang, and a man's cool voice came through the receiver. Haven't you come down yet? That's when I finally noticed the time. I've got to work late. You go ahead, don't wait for me. I slowly packed up the things on my desk, thinking that since I was leaving the job soon, I should start taking my personal items home bit by bit. My gaze fell upon the potted succulent on the desk. It's funny. I had to beg Chen Jianjin for ages before he finally gave it to me. I threw the succulent into the wastebasket beside the desk. 8. When Shuyi, his voice was soft, carrying a faint chill that seemed to seep right into one's heart. I lifted my gaze to look at him. Still here, Mr. Chen. The office was empty. All my colleagues had left. In the vast, quiet space, only he and I remained. A slight frown creased his brow. Why are you calling me that? I kept my head down, stuffing the small items from the desk into my bag. My tone laced with confusion. Because you're my boss. Suddenly, a warm, large hand settled on my waist. His voice was slightly hoarse. Am I not your fiancé? My hand froze mid-action, and I let out a cold laugh. Didn't we get this all straightened out this morning? We're done. I could feel the hand resting on my waist stiffen slightly. His lips pressed into a thin line, his gaze fixed on me. When Shuyi, did I ever agree to that? We're already engaged. I take a step back. Let me say this to you clearly, one more time. I'm breaking up with you. The engagement is off. When you have a moment, remember to return the ring to me. I left my ring at your place. Chen Jianjin froze, his expression faltering. I never agreed to this. Go home, without a word. He wrapped an arm around my waist and pulled me into the elevator. I frowned deeply. Have you lost your mind? What if a colleague sees us? I only felt the arm around my waist tighten its hold. His eyes were fixed on the flickering floor numbers of the elevator. I'm with my fiancé. What business is it of anyone else? I made my way to the car, trying to stay out of sight. Unfortunately didn't run into anyone I knew. Perfect timing. I can go back and pack. 9. He's quite skilled in the kitchen, able to prepare both Western and Japanese cuisine. When I got home, I saw the ring I had returned to him earlier that day still sitting on the dining table. I just glanced at it. That night, I slept in the other bedroom. I was roused by a faint rustling sound and opened my eyes to find Chen Jianjin lying on the other side, clutching a pillow. Suddenly, his phone rang. After glancing at the caller ID, he abruptly walked out to the balcony. In the dead of night, even the slightest sound is amplified. All I could hear was the person on the other end, sobbing as they said, Jianjin, I regret it. Can you come and take me away? His voice was soft, his thin lips parting slightly. Yet no sound came for a long time. The sound of shattering glass came from the other end of the line. After a long pause, he finally spoke. I'm coming over now. I squeezed my eyes shut, pretending to be asleep. I didn't open my eyes until I heard him sigh softly, felt his hand gently touch the top of my head, and listened as he left the room. That was Ju Xining on the phone, wasn't it? Last year when I fell and got hurt, she also managed to summon Chen Jianjin away with just one phone call. 10. In the daylight, the dark circles under Chen Jianjin's eyes made him look weary. I yawned, staring at the closet full of clothes and wondering how I was going to pack it all. Suddenly, the man spoke. What kind of wedding dress do you like? And the wedding venue? I'll go with Mom to have a look in a few days. I gave a light, soft laugh. Mr. Chen, that's a question you should be asking Ju Xining. Chen Jianjin shot me a cold, piercing look. Don't joke about her. I crouched down and picked up the apple that had fallen on the ground. I'm serious. He suddenly grabbed me by the waist. Let's go try on the wedding dress right now. He forcefully took me away. Sitting in the car, his expression was calm. I turned my head to look at him. Chen Jianjin, you have feelings for Ju Xining, don't you? The tires beneath us screeched against the pavement. He remained firmly seated, brows furrowed, and slowly turned his head to look at me. His expression held a trace of panic. When Shuyi, that was all in the past, I gave a small, closed-mouth smile. Does something that happened just a month ago even count as the past? 11. Chen Jianjin held my hand tightly as he led me into the bridal shop. He explained, right now, it's only you I like. I gazed at the wedding dress in the glass display case, intricate, beautiful, breathtaking. I casually took a photo and posted it to my social feed, visible only to Ju Xining. She arrived even faster than I had imagined. She was dressed in a hospital gown, with a coat thrown over it. She looked so frail, as if she might collapse at any moment. When Chen Jianjin saw her, his brow furrowed slightly. "What are you doing here?" Her eyes grew slightly red. "Jianjin, he's back. I'm scared. Will you come with me one last time?" He looked at me with hesitation, as if seeking my opinion. I simply gave a slight nod. "You go ahead and look, I'll be right back." I didn't wait for him and returned to the office. When I opened my email, I found that my resignation had been approved. 12. I was leisurely sipping the afternoon tea my colleague had treated me to. A rough, low growl came from outside. "Where is Wen Shuyi? Tell her to get the hell out here." I looked up and saw a man in a black padded jacket, a scar running down his face, holding a slender knife pointed straight at me. At the sight of a man dressed like that, my heart clenched and my eyes widened in shock. I didn't know him. He walked straight towards me, knife in hand. Seeing the knife in his hand, my colleagues panicked, scrambling to call the police on their phones. He kept advancing, forcing me to step back. My throat tightened and my voice went hoarse. "Don't move. Let's talk this through. I don't know you," he yelled. "You're the other woman, seducing my daughter's boyfriend. I'll kill you." I shook my head, trying to calm him down. "I don't have a boyfriend, and I don't know your daughter." He brandished the knife wildly and shouted, "She was seducing Chen Jianjin. You all know Chen Jianjin, right? He's your boss," a colleague said. "Calm down. There's no way she's with Chen Jianjin. Who is your daughter?" The man shouted. "Zhu Xining is your CEO Chen's girlfriend. She's been with your Mr. Chen for 8 years. It was Wen Shuyi who stole my daughter's boyfriend." His knife pressed against my neck, cutting a small gash as blood slowly welled up. With a clatter, the knife fell to the floor. Veins bulged on Chen Jianjin's forehead. He rolled up his sleeves, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, and the prominent cords of his neck stood out. He drove his foot hard into the man's body. Security guards rushed over. Chen Jianjin roared, "Pin him down." The man was pinned to the ground. I watched him, my heart still pounding with fear, as he writhed and roared, "Homewrecker, I'm going to kill you." My palms were slick with cold sweat, and a chill ran through my entire body. For the first time, I felt death was this close. 13. A powerful force pulled me into an embrace, and I caught the crisp, woody scent of his cologne. I struggled desperately to break free, but his grip only tightened, and I roared, "Let go. Stay away from me." He slowly released his grip, only to pull me back, his fingers intertwining forcefully with mine. His gaze softened. "Let's go to the hospital." I shook him off. "I'm calling the police." My hands trembling, I took out my phone, but Chen Jianjin snatched it from me. "I'm calling the police." Through the glass, I could see my hair had become disheveled during the struggle. I looked him in the eye and said firmly, "No, you'll cover for Zhu Xining. I don't believe you." He gripped my hand tightly and, with his other hand, pulled out his phone to call the police. "Let's get that wound looked at first." "Okay." I shook my head in refusal. He let out a soft sigh. It was only after giving my statement that I went to the hospital to have my wound treated. He knelt on the ground, half crouching, the deep furrow in his brow never easing. What a coincidence. Zhu Xining was also in this hospital. Wearing a coat over her hospital gown, she was wandering around until she spotted me sitting in the corridor. She immediately rushed over. "Wen Shuyi, why did you call the police? Why did you have to take my dad away?" I looked at her with a cold sneer. "Why shouldn't I call the police?" Chen Jianjin stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Go back." Tears welled in Zhu Xining's eyes, making her look utterly pitiful and fragile. Her already pale face, combined with the ill-fitting hospital gown, made her slender frame seem even more pitiable. A single sob was enough to stir anyone's compassion. "Jianjin, are you leaving me?" I came out without my coat. It's still in the office. A cold gust of wind blew, and Chen Jianjin draped his overcoat over my shoulders. I stood motionless, and he pulled the coat tighter around me. "Get dressed, it's cold," Zhu Xining said, her voice trembling with tears. "Jianjin, I'm cold too." He lifted his gaze and said coldly, "If you're cold, go back to your room." He took my hand, intertwining our fingers. He held on tight, as if afraid I might run away the very next second. I pulled my hand free, slipped off my jacket, and draped it over Zhu Xining's shoulders. "Cold, are you? Then you'd better keep it on." I walked towards the elevator. The person behind him followed into the elevator. and a look of sheer panic flashed in Chen Jianjin's eyes, his face turning pale. Shuyi. Before Zhu Xining could catch up, he immediately pressed the close button. Inside the confined elevator car, I felt utterly drained. He held my hand with a stubborn grip, his grasp firm and his voice trembling. Let's go home. 14. Once inside the room, I gathered a few essential items. He stood blocking the doorway. Do you really have to go? I nodded. Yes. He stepped back outside. I'm going out. It's too late now. It's not safe. When the door opened in the daytime, he was waiting there. I'll go to the office with you, I began. No, that won't be necessary. What happened yesterday, it didn't leave a good impression. I'd like you to clear things up. When I arrived at the office entrance, he was there too. I went around to the parking lot and took the elevator upstairs. In the restroom, I overheard people talking about yesterday's incident. It blew up so big, it was pretty wild. Thankfully, I'm leaving the company soon anyway. Some close colleagues offered me comfort and guidance. Chen Jianjin walked into the office and took my hand. Let's go home. Zhu Xining is my sister-in-law. I pulled away and said, I was with him. Yes, but it's over now. Standing in the hallway, his eyes grew slightly red. I don't accept this breakup. I looked into his eyes and asked, word by deliberate word, Chen Jianjin, you've never been willing to acknowledge our relationship in front of your colleagues. Yet you were happy to bring me home. Is it because you're secretly in love with your sister-in-law, and your parents are desperate for you to get married? His thin lips parted and closed again, a few words escaping his throat. Yes, but I didn't listen to his explanation. There was no point. 15. On my way out, I got a call from Mrs. Chen, still as gentle as ever. Shuyi, when are you coming over for a meal? It's been so long, I said calmly. Auntie, Chen Jianjin and I have broken up. I won't be coming for dinner, Chen's mother asked in a panic. What's wrong? After hanging up the phone, I remembered all those contrived and overly sentimental posts I had made on social media. Just to get Chen Jianjin's attention, I set my WeChat moments to be visible for only the last 3 days. And I also blocked him. 16. It wasn't too cold today, and the sun came out for the first time in a while. I sat on a bench in the park, ignored countless calls from Chen Jianjin, and finally just turned my phone off. I was just about to leave when Zhu Xining stepped in front of me. She didn't look well. When Shuyi, we need to talk. All right, what would you like to discuss? She smiled with the confidence of a winner, as if in the game they were playing, Chen Jianjin was the ultimate prize, and she was already certain of her victory. She then pulled out her phone, showed me a photo from her social media feed of her hospital stay in Mexico last year, and shared. You were in the hospital that day too, weren't you? But I had been mugged in Mexico, and he flew over on the very next flight. I watched her triumphant smile with perfect calm. It was a shame none of it got to me. I simply listened to her speak. Seeing my complete lack of reaction, she grew agitated and said, I grew up with both brothers, and I've only just married the older one, but his brother was in a car accident, but he's always liked me, I said with a smile. I understand. I picked up my bag to leave, but she grabbed my hand. Please write a letter of leniency for my father. From what I understand, the injuries on her body were inflicted by her own father. That night, Chen Jianjin rushed to the hospital in the middle of the night precisely because she had been a victim of domestic violence at her father's hands. After that, Zhu Xining messaged me every single day, pleading with me to write that letter of leniency for her father. After I blocked her, I finally had some peace and quiet. 17. As the new year approached, festive red lanterns were hung along the streets. On the day I was shopping for New Year's supplies for my new home, I saw a shadowy figure lurking around the neighborhood. I cautiously walked away, heading towards the security office, only to find that the man was wearing a security guard's uniform. My face went pale, and my throat tightened. It was Zhu Xining's father. He lunged at me, his hands closing around my throat. Choking off my cry for help, a tall, looming figure descended upon me. I could finally breathe again. The next instant, the two of them were locked in a violent struggle. At the same moment, both Chen Jianjin and the man fell to the ground. Clutching his chest, the man scrambled to his feet in a panic and fled. A glaring wound on Chen Jianjin's arm was gushing blood. I stared in horror at the pool of blood and immediately called the police. Chen Jianjin's lips turned pale. He collapsed from severe blood loss. He was rushed to the ICU, and his parents were notified. His mother's hands were trembling. Upon hearing what had happened, she cried out in anger, "She's a jinx, she got my eldest son killed, and now she's after my youngest. She was our neighbor when she was little. Her father was a gambler. When her father got out of prison, Jianjin's older brother was trying to protect her when he was hit and killed. Jianjin and his brother were always wrapped around her little finger. The reason Jianjin is so taken with her is that when he was a boy, his father and I were too busy with our careers to look after the two of them properly. She would always give Jianjin the best of whatever she had, which left his feelings for her in a confusing, ambiguous place. It wasn't until this year that we found out the hit-and-run driver who killed Jianjin's older brother was Zhu Xining's father. Chen Jianjin came out of surgery and remained in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights. When he woke up, he was weakly calling out my name. At his mother's pleading, I finally stepped into the hospital room. He said, "Will you marry me?" Seeing the tears welling up in his eyes, I found it bitterly ironic. Remembering how he had confessed to Zhu Xining with red-rimmed eyes that night, a sardonic smile curled at the corner of my lips. "Chen Jianjin, you're in love with her. I heard everything that night. You told her that if she didn't come back to you, you would marry me. That was the first time I ever saw you cry." His face froze, his throat tightened, and his voice trembled slightly. "I did have feelings for her, but I don't anymore, Shuyi. I'm sorry." 18. Chen Jianjin's hand was injured from a cut, so he couldn't lift heavy objects or exert too much force. His mother repeatedly begged me to go see him, but I refused every time. In the spring, I was preparing to move. I saw Chen Jianjin downstairs in the residential complex. He was just standing there, his back looking lonely and forlorn, a far cry from his former spirited self, head hung low. He did seem rather pitiful, yet I felt no pity for him. He rushed up to me. Like a little dog wagging its tail. "Shuyi, Zhu Xining and her father have both been taken in. I found out a while ago that Zhu Xining was egging her father on to get back at me. If Chen Jianjin hadn't shown up when he did, I really wouldn't have stood a chance against a grown man. But then, if it weren't for Chen Jianjin, I wouldn't have gone through all this." I nodded to show I understood. After a long pause, he gave a bitter smile and said, "It's been a long time since I've seen a post from you." I reached for my phone. "Yeah, I've blocked you. The night we broke up, you went to see Zhu Xining. I couldn't sleep." His smile was forced. "Actually, I've read every single one of your social media posts. You said you wanted a succulent. So that's why I asked Assistant Lee to buy one for you. I saw you shared that proposal video, so I bought a ring." I did have an unhealthy fixation on Zhu Xining for a while. My brother's passing and my family situation made it hard for me to understand my own feelings, but I realize now, what I felt for her was just familial affection. When I found out she was in a relationship, I just thought, she'd met the right person. But the thought of you being with someone else, it makes it hard for me to breathe. His hands hung limply at his sides. "I only went that day because her father was abusing her. She was begging me through her tears." He spoke cautiously, his voice strained and unpleasant. His gaze was shattered when he looked at me, eyes brimming with tears. "When Shuyi, I love you." I let out a cold laugh. "This is the first time I've seen you cry because of me." While moving, I caught sight of his tall figure at the airport, on the other side of the city. I deleted his and his family's contact information. Even though Mrs. Chen was always kind to me, at the beach, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure, and I knew exactly who it was. Later, he sent me a message asking, "Can I see your moments?" I used to want to share everything with him. Well, what's gone is gone. The person I once adored is just not that special after all. Story 2. He politely threw a stack of photos onto my desk and said, "Think about it, let's cooperate." I took a closer look and found that the photos were all fragments of my husband and my best friend being intimate. I stared at the man in front of me, who was holding a helmet and wearing a racing suit, and said, "How do you want to cooperate?" Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. As soon as Han Songchen left, my best friend Fang Xiaoyun sent me a WeChat message. "Honey, how do I look in this bikini?" Then, she sent me a photo. In the photo, she had a good figure and her skin was as white as jade. The sky blue bikini made her even more beautiful. However, her right hand was holding someone. But the specific appearance and figure of that person couldn't be seen. I deliberately asked, "You got a boyfriend right after you got divorced?" "Yeah, I mentioned it to you before, when my ex-husband cheated on me, I found this backup. I helped Fang Xiaoyun with her divorce lawsuit against Han Songchen. I even led the police personally to obtain the video evidence of Han Songchen being caught in the hotel. All of this was to ensure that my best friend would win the case and that the scumbag would get the punishment he deserved. But now I'm the clown, because the backup my best friend found is my husband, Ji Yukai. In the photo, the ring finger of that hand was still wearing the same couple ring as mine. 3 days ago, Fang Xiaoyun said she wanted to go out and relax. She took my arm and acted coquettishly. Shuang Shuang, come with me, it's so lonely to go alone, but I really couldn't spare the time. I happened to have another case to deal with these 2 days. I refused, saying, be good, I'll go with you as soon as I finish my work. At that time, Fang Xiaoyun stared at Ji Yukai, who was cooking for us in the kitchen, in an ambiguous way and said, then let your husband accompany me. I tapped her on the head and said, get out of here. She had always been outspoken and liked to joke, so I didn't pay much attention. Upon hearing this, Ji Yukai was suddenly stunned. Then, he turned around holding the cooking spoon and said with a smile, Xiaoyun, stop joking, I'm really busy with work and don't have the time to amuse you too. Fang Xiaoyun pouted and protested, you two, as a couple, just don't care about me. Now that I think about it, she said that on purpose to Ji Yukai. Ji Yukai also doted on her. That night, he told me he had to go on a business trip. It turned out that the two of them had planned to go on a trip together. The next day, Fang Xiaoyun knocked on my door. She hugged me cheerfully, saying, baby, I missed you so much. I endured the nausea and pretended to hug her. With a very light force, she noticed something was wrong and pushed me away, asking curiously, what's wrong with you? Shuang Shuang. I pretended to be relaxed and said, it's nothing. She didn't doubt it anymore. Instead, she tugged at the dazzling gold necklace around her neck and said, look. My boyfriend bought this for me. Is it nice? I was stunned and stared at it again and again. Wasn't this the year of the Snake limited edition fortune necklace that I had taken a fancy to before? I had mentioned it to Ji Yukai, intentionally or unintentionally, that I wanted to receive it on my birthday. But on my birthday, Ji Yukai used the excuse of having to work overtime at the company and couldn't accompany me on my birthday. The next morning, when he came home, I smiled and stretched out my hands, saying, gift. As he put down his briefcase, he asked in confusion, gift? What gift? I stood there in a daze, thinking he was joking, but he still looked at me blankly. I then realized that he had completely forgotten my birthday, let alone the gold necklace I had mentioned. But now it seems that he didn't forget my birthday, he just didn't want to celebrate it for me. He was just pretending. I smiled absently and then replied, it's nice. Fang Xiaoyun raised the corners of her mouth, showing a victorious posture. In the past, I might not have thought there was anything wrong with it, but now, I know that she did it on purpose. Hey, what are we all doing standing at the door? I don't know when Ji Yukai stood behind us. I had expected that they would come back today because there was an important dinner party at the Qiao family tomorrow, and Ji Yukai had to come back, since your husband is back. I won't disturb your couple's time together, Fang Xiaoyun said to me and also gave Ji Yukai a meaningful look. Ji Yukai didn't stop her from leaving. He closed the door and hugged me in his arms. Shuang Shuang, I haven't hugged you for a few days. Why do I feel like you've gained weight? His head was buried in my neck, and his warm breath blew against my ear. I chuckled and pushed him away, saying, I haven't gained weight. Maybe you've hugged a woman who is thinner than me. Ji Yukai froze in place. Looking flustered for a moment, quickly, he grabbed me as I was about to turn away and said, don't say such things. Besides you, who else would I hug? Then, he took out a bag from his pocket and handed it to me, saying, Shuang Shuang, this is the birthday gift I'm making up for you. I took it and opened it to have a look. There was a box in the bag, and the bottom of the box was sticky. When I opened it, it was a gold bean ring with a red string. I noticed that there was a gift mark inside the bag. Presumably, this was a gift given when buying the gold necklace. I disdainfully threw the things on the ground and said, no need. Then, I took out the gold necklace that I had wanted from the bedroom. I casually put it on my hand and said to Ji Yukai indifferently, giving me something that's left over from others and expecting me to be grateful. Ji Yukai, I can afford this thing. Asking you to give it to me was to give you a chance. Ji Yukai's face suddenly turned ugly, but he still refused to admit it and said, Stop making trouble. This was bought for you. I know you're not short of money, but this is my thoughtfulness. I looked at the gift label and nodded disdainfully. At the Chow family's dinner party, Ji Kai and I interlocked our fingers, and he gracefully talked with the guests. You and your wife are truly a perfect match. After all these years, you're still so in love. I'm so envious. That's right. I bet you'll have a baby soon. Everyone was chatting happily, and Ji Kai echoed, soon, soon, Shuang and I will still be in love even after another 10 years. I raised the corners of my mouth and looked at the man I had once loved deeply, who was full of lies. My stomach felt as if it was churning. Shuang. Fang Xiaoyun's voice sounded behind me. I suddenly turned around and saw her waving at me gracefully. She rushed to my side, took my arm, and said happily, baby. I can finally attend your family's dinner party. Logically speaking, those who could attend the Qiao family's dinner party were either rich or noble. There was only one explanation for Fang Xiaoyun's appearance. Ji Kai had allowed it. Ji Kai and I looked at each other for 2 seconds. He mumbled, why are you looking at me? Isn't Xiaoyun your best friend? Don't you allow her to attend the dinner party? Before I could speak, Fang Xiaoyun acted coquettishly again and said, baby. I went for an interview at Ji Kai's company yesterday and passed. He said that since I have a good relationship with you, he would bring me here in advance to experience the grandeur of high society. You're not unhappy, are you? I smiled and said, of course not. I'm so proud of my sister for being so amazing. Then, I turned my head and said to Ji Kai, why didn't you tell me in advance that you hired her? Ji Kai said, didn't I want to give you a surprise? I nodded thoughtfully, just right. I also have a surprise for him. The main purpose of this dinner party was to find a partner for a project. Because of the large amount of funds involved, the Qiao family specially organized this dinner party. As my husband, Ji Kai was naturally confident, and the powerful and wealthy people present also flattered him. Seeing that the dinner party was about to start, the person I was waiting for hadn't arrived yet. I was a bit anxious, so I went to look for that person along the corridor. Unexpectedly, when I passed by the stairwell, I heard some strange sounds coming from inside. My hasty steps immediately stopped. This sound, once I get this project, I'll take you to Bali for a trip. No, when are you going to divorce Qiao Shuang? I want you to marry me. Just thinking that you have to touch her when you go back at night makes me feel bad. Ji Kai sneered and said, you're even getting jealous. If it weren't for my parents being eager to have a grandson, who would want to touch her? She's always like a dead person every time. So boring. It was still exciting last time. When that stupid Qiao Shuang was helping me check the surveillance of Han Songchen, the two of us were in the hotel stairwell. The moment I learned the truth, my blood turned ice cold. It was indeed Ji Kai who accompanied us that day. I was so absorbed in watching the surveillance that I completely forgot that Ji Kai and Fang Xiaoyun had gone out one after another. My heart ached so much that I couldn't breathe. Just as I was about to push the door open, a hand suddenly grabbed my wrist. Don't be impulsive, they won't end well. A pleasant voice reached my ears. I looked up, and Han Songchen's sharply defined silhouette was against the light. His warm hand covered the back of my hand. I blushed and pulled my hand away. He said, let's go, finish the important thing. I suppressed the anger in my heart and nodded. Ji Kai adjusted his clothes at the door and then sat down beside me. He explained to me, I had a bit of a stomachache. I looked ahead and ignored him, until Fang Xiaoyun also came back from outside a minute later. She walked over quickly and sat down on the other side of me, deliberately revealing a clear hickey. She said, baby, it's my first time at such an occasion. It's really an eye-opener. I sneered and said, well, it really is an eye-opener. She thought she had won a trophy, but she didn't know that the show was yet to come. On the stage, my father read out the names of the companies that came to compete for the project. The first one was the name of Ji Kai's family. Finally, my father put down the booklet in his hand and said, this competition is fair and just. Please have the leaders of each company come on stage to give a self-introduction. This confused Ji Kai and everyone present. They had thought that this was a predetermined quota, and not many people would have prepared in advance. At most, it was just going through the motions. Ji Kai was thus pushed onto the stage and stumbled as he talked about his plan for the project. Because he was so confident of winning, he couldn't come up with good solutions to many common problems in the project. He also made some jokes, and some people whispered, Can he really take on this project? Damn, if I were the son-in-law, I could do it too. A man who relies on his wife. I thought he had some real ability. Beads of sweat also appeared on Ji Yukai's forehead. Okay, let's welcome the next one. Amid the curious gazes of everyone, Han Song-chen confidently picked up the microphone and began to talk at length about his plan for the project. 10 minutes later, there was a round of applause from the audience. Everyone already knew who would win the project. During this period, Ji Yukai tugged at my sleeve, frowned, and blamed me. Qiao Shuang, did you deliberately embarrass me? You knew that today's process was different from usual, but you didn't tell me in advance. I spread my hands and said, who can you blame if you don't have the ability? Fang Xiaoyun was stunned as she watched Han Song-chen, who used to be unruly, now shining brightly, and she regretted it deeply. She couldn't believe it and grabbed my hand, saying, Shuang Shuang, when did Han Song-chen become Mr. Han? I smiled and said, after you divorced him, he went home to inherit the family property. Fang Xiaoyun said unhappily, it was you who obtained the surveillance footage and personally helped us get divorced. It's all your fault. You made me lose my good life. I think you're a green tea bitch. After saying that, she picked up a glass of champagne on the table and threw it at my face. I don't know when Han Song-chen walked to my side, he pulled me aside. And the champagne missed me and spilled all over the floor. After I stood still, without saying a word, I quickly picked up the champagne and threw it at Fang Xiaoyun, accompanied by her scream of ah. Everyone at the scene looked over. Her hair was wet, she was in a sorry state, and she sat on the ground wailing. She pointed at me and shouted, this is the daughter of the Qiao family, bullying a woman who has no power or influence. There were many media reporters at the scene. They seized the opportunity and rushed over. They started questioning me without distinguishing right from wrong. Miss Qiao, do you really hate your best friend that much? Can't we be friends with you if we don't have money? You seem so friendly usually, but I didn't expect you to play such a duplicitous game. Fang Xiaoyun cried pitifully. When all the cameras were on her, she suddenly stopped crying. Then, she said to the camera, it's all her. She colluded with my ex-husband. I didn't see her true colors until I got divorced. She has already had an affair with my husband. After saying that, she took out her phone and opened a photo. In the photo, I was holding Han Song-chen's wrist with one hand and squatting down, not knowing what I was doing. Anyway, from that angle, it really looked like Han Song-chen and I had intimate contact. I thought about it carefully. This was probably the day he came to find me, when we went out of the company to do something together. I sprained my ankle and instinctively grabbed his wrist. I never expected to be photographed. When I was being severely criticized, Han Song-chen stood up. He said coldly, Fang Xiaoyun, haven't you had enough of accusing others first when you're the one at fault? Next, I'll show you what it means to be too clever for your own good. In full view of everyone, Han Song-chen put a video on the screen. Before he even clicked to play the video, just by looking at the cover, I knew what he was going to show. I didn't care about anything else. I took 2 steps at a time and rushed onto the stage, snatching his phone and disconnecting the Bluetooth connection. I shook my head at him and said, no, if you play this video now, it will be an invasion of someone else's privacy. Moreover, there are too many live streaming devices here. You might even get arrested if things go wrong. My professional ethics compelled me to do so, while everyone was still confused. Ji Yukai panicked. Others might not know what it was, but he knew very well. Fang Xiaoyun stood in front of the stage, haughtily saying, play it, Han Song-chen, why don't you dare to play it? Seeing this, Ji Yukai rushed forward and covered her mouth, whispering fiercely in her ear, enough, Xiaoyun. He forcefully dragged Fang Xiaoyun out of the hall, and the reporters were blocked by his bodyguards. Han Song-chen frowned and asked me, just let them go like this. I smiled bitterly and said, we can't sacrifice your future for these 2 despicable people, can we? After hearing this, Han Song-chen burst into laughter, almost unable to close his mouth. The corners of his mouth curved into a nice arc, and he said, you underestimate me, Qiao Shuang. He clicked on the video that hadn't been played on the public screen just now. In the video, Ji Yukai and Fang Xiaoyun were seen holding hands and kissing during their trip to Jeju Island, since it was nighttime and the visibility was poor. I mistakenly thought it was the video he had taken outside the stairwell just now. I stamped my foot in regret and muttered to myself, my damned professional habit. Han Song-chen shook his head at me indulgently and said, I really can't do anything about you. At night. Ji Yu Kai pushed open the door of the bedroom and pulled me into his arms. His voice was soft, with a hint of flattery. Shuang shuang. Things aren't as you think. She and I are just friends. Xiaoyun is your best friend. So I agreed to let her join my company. Isn't that to show you some respect? I smiled but remained silent, staring intently into Ji Yu Kai's eyes. He felt a chill under my gaze. Then he took out his phone and put Xiaoyun on the blacklist right in front of me. He raised 3 fingers solemnly and said, I, Ji Yu Kai, swear to the heavens that I won't do anything to betray my wife. He shook my arm, as if acting coquettishly. Wife, talk to me. I forgive you, without hesitation. I casually pushed his hand away. I added, I'm too tired today. Don't touch me. Just go to bed quickly. I turned on my side and stopped looking at him. However, from the reflection of the bay window, I saw him smiling triumphantly. I guess he was thinking that I was easy to placate. The next morning, the phone rang. Hello. I answered the phone in a daze. A very deep and ambiguous male voice came from the other end. Ciao, get up quickly. I'll take you to City H to have soybean milk and fried dough sticks. Ji Yu Kai beside me was awakened by our commotion. Hearing the man's voice, he immediately sat up alertly and questioned me. Who is that, inviting you to breakfast early in the morning? I got up lazily and started choosing my clothes. Then I casually said to Ji Yu Kai, oh, a friend inviting you to breakfast early in the morning. What kind of breakfast requires going to the neighboring city to eat? Can't you have it at home? Facing his questions, I just felt annoyed. I perfunctorily answered him while quickly changing my clothes. He's not an ordinary friend. He's a partner of the Chow family. After saying that, I heard a rumbling sound downstairs. So I ran downstairs without looking up. When I got into Han Songchen's supercar, Ji Yu Kai leaned out from the second floor. Put my wife down. Damn it. The supercar sped on the highway, and I was touching up my makeup in the car. Han Song-chen suddenly said, actually, I didn't cheat when I was with Fang Xiaoyun. I stopped the hand that was about to stick on my false eyelashes and said, is this a scumbag's redemption story? He was amused by my words and explained. That woman is the secretary of my client. I investigated her privately. She had contact with Fang Xiaoyun. Shortly after my divorce, I found that she frequently entered high-end clubs. So I vaguely suspected that Fang Xiaoyun gave her a lot of money. After all, she got a lot of money from me. Han Song-chen was right. The main purpose of my helping Fang Xiaoyun with the lawsuit was to get his money. I asked him, so you didn't have anything happen with that woman, holding the steering wheel? He looked a bit confused and said, actually, I'm not sure, because I was really dizzy that day. I don't know exactly what happened. Then I realized that it was very likely that Fang Xiaoyun had set a trap. The purpose was to empty all of Han Songchen's possessions and even make him lose his reputation. Fang Xiaoyun didn't expect that Han Songchen had hidden this from her. His parents were well-known figures in Beijing, but they were very low-key. While I was thinking, Han Songchen's phone rang. I accidentally caught a glimpse that it was from Fang Xiaoyun. Han Songchen ignored it. It wasn't until the phone rang 3 times that I said, answer it and see what she has to say. Then he pressed the answer button and turned on the speakerphone. What is it? Aiken, I'm pregnant. Can you come and pick me up? At the door of Fang Xiaoyun's villa, when she saw Han Songchen getting out of the sports car, she rushed over in a hurry and put her arms around his neck. Husband, I regret it. Can you give me another chance? Her shoulders were twitching, and her eyes were incredibly red. For the sake of caution, Han Songchen insisted on taking her to the hospital for an examination. She was unyielding and held up the examination form in her hand, saying, I've already had an examination. Don't you trust me? Han Songchen smiled softly, walked beside the supercar, and said to me, sorry, the car can only seat 2 people. I'm sorry to trouble you. I sensibly got out of the car. Fang Xiaoyun incredulously stepped forward and raised her hand. You fox, it's all your fault that I got divorced. I grabbed her wrist and squeezed out through my teeth. Fang Xiaoyun, don't push your luck. After saying that, I walked outside, hailed a taxi, and left. On the way back to the law firm, I looked at my phone. Ji Yu Kai had called me dozens of times and sent countless messages. What's the relationship between you and Han Songchen? If you go, don't come back. You're such a fickle woman, wife. I was a bit harsh. Please come back. While flipping through the chat records, Lawyer Liu, who had the best relationship with me in the law firm, called me. "Hello, Lawyer Chow, something terrible has happened." When I rushed to the law firm, I found that the company's sign had been smashed. There were also several glaring red words sprayed on the wall. "Qiao Shuang is a mistress who destroys other people's marriages. She deserves to die." People around were pointing fingers at me. Only Lawyer Liu stepped forward to comfort me. "Don't listen to those gossips. I know best what kind of person you are. I've always kept my personal life and work separate, so the people in the company didn't know that I was the daughter of the richest man in the city." I was very touched that Lawyer Liu could be so close to me. "Thank you, Lawyer Liu." She took out 2 bottles of white spray paint from her bag and smiled, saying, "Come on, let's wipe them off." I frowned, but in the end, I did as she said. After all, I had caused trouble for the company. Seeing that I was in a bad mood, Lawyer Liu insisted on taking me for a few drinks. The colorful lights flickered, shining on the lonely people. Lawyer Liu went to the restroom and didn't come out for several minutes. "Sorry for keeping you waiting. I had a bit of diarrhea today." She apologized and poured me a glass of wine. I took a couple of sips, and my head started to feel dizzy. I wanted to go to the restroom to wash my face and sober up. On the way, I caught a glimpse of 2 familiar faces, Fang Xiaoyun and the mistress of Han Songchen at that time. They looked at me with smiles, resting their chins on their hands without any scruples. The next second, my eyes went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up, the sunlight shone through the gap in the black curtains onto my eyelids. I opened my eyes slightly, and a warmth came from beside me. It was a man's arm. Then, the door was pushed open with a bang, and someone shouted loudly, "Qiao Shuang, you seduced my man." I got up abruptly, and several people holding phones rushed in from outside. "Everyone, come and take a look. Lawyer Qiao Shuang has no moral integrity and is having an affair while married." Friends in the live broadcast room, "This is the top lawyer in our eyes. In fact, she's just a slut. I heard that she stole her best friend's husband and forced them to divorce." Fang Xiaoyun was in the lead. She crossed her arms over her chest and smiled triumphantly. The man beside me was sleeping soundly, lying on his side with his face covered by the quilt. I tightly held the corner of the quilt, trying my best not to be photographed. I trembled in fear and said, "Fang Xiaoyun, you guys, what you're doing is illegal. I even regarded you as my sister, and I helped you with the lawsuit for free, helping you take away the scumbag's property. Is this how you repay me?" She didn't show any guilt for lying and sneered, "My dear best friend, if I had known that Han Songchen's parents were powerful, I would never have divorced him. As for you, you just couldn't stand to see me doing well, when Ji Kai chose you between the 2 of us. You should have been content, but after you got married, you always showed off with those high-end goods, saying that you bought too many and would give them to me. Weren't you just showing off your superiority? Your family is so wealthy, but you still pretend to be poor outside. Your colleagues don't even know your identity. If it weren't for me, Lawyer Liu would still be kept in the dark by you." It turned out that Fang Xiaoyun had always held a grudge against me. Ji Kai and my family were a good match in terms of social status, and I had truly loved him. She always thought that my family background dominated my relationship with Ji Kai. I was afraid that Fang Xiaoyun wouldn't have a good life, so I kept looking for suitable people to introduce to her. In the end, she found Han Songchen, the racing driver, by herself. She often told me how excellent her husband was and how rich he was. I smiled brightly, took her hand, and said, "Yunyun, as long as you're happy." Then I turned around and gave her bags and jewelry worth tens of thousands of yuan. I didn't expect that she thought I was showing off. Lawyer Liu adjusted her glasses frame and raised her phone with a smile, saying, "Lawyer Chow, you've ruined me." I was confused and looked at her blankly. She laughed maniacally. "Back then, we joined the company together. Your academic qualifications were not as good as mine, and you took on fewer cases than me. You weren't even among those who worked overtime." "But what happened?" A trace of sadness flashed in Lawyer Liu's eyes. "But you have a wealthy family, great power, and are good at speaking. That's why you won Mr. Pei's favor and were given so many major cases. Are people like us, who have no family background, just meant to be the stepping stones for your promotion?" She pointed at Fang Xiaoyun resentfully and said, "If it weren't for Xiaoyun, I would still be kept in the dark. I was wondering why I couldn't catch up with you no matter how hard I tried. It turns out that you're the daughter of the richest man. The world is so unfair." After listening to her accusations, I just felt a pang of pain in my heart. Over the years, I haven't had an easy life, although I don't have to worry about food and clothing. I also have my own ideals and ambitions. I only take on major and important cases and have never lost a case. That's why I became famous. Normally, I help those poor victims who can't afford a lawyer with their lawsuits. I often stay up late, memorize legal provisions, or watch the trial processes of some cases, but I've never been showy and have always been low-key. However, Lawyer Liu misunderstood me and thought that I never worked overtime and didn't work hard. A satisfied smile appeared on Lawyer Liu's face. She stepped forward and grabbed the corner of the quilt. "However, today, you will fall from your pedestal." She pulled the quilt away, and the man beside me was revealed. Everyone was stunned. Ji Yu Kai was hugging me. Outside the door, there was the sound of applause. What a frame-up! Everyone turned around in unison. Han Song-chen, dressed in a suit, was clapping and cheering. Fang Xiaoyun unconsciously took 2 steps back, covered her mouth, and stammered, You shouldn't be in Qiao Shuang's bed." The corners of my mouth curved slightly. I picked up the sheer coat beside me and put it on. I lowered my eyes and woke up Ji Yu Kai, who was still sleeping soundly. He opened his eyes sleepily. The moment he saw Fang Xiaoyun, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he sat up from the bed. "Since everyone is here, let's make things clear." I turned my head and said to the camera, Ji Yu Kai and Fang Xiaoyun wanted to join forces to push me and Han Song-chen to the forefront of public opinion. During the time I was helping Fang Xiaoyun with the lawsuit, she met Lawyer Liu. And the two of them hit it off and designed this trap. How did I find out that Lawyer Liu was acting strangely? When she took out 2 bottles of white latex paint, I clearly saw that there was a 3rd bottle of red paint still in her bag. Later, Fang Xiaoyun brought Han Song-chen to the hotel, saying that she wanted to get back together with him. Han Song-chen pretended to agree and came to the hotel. Fang Xiaoyun put a sleeping pill in his wine glass. He pretended to drink it and then pretended to be asleep, and she carried him to the bed. Then, she and Han Song-chen's mistress went to the bar to meet Lawyer Liu. They happened to see that I was also out of my mind after drinking, and they brought me to Han Song-chen's room. That's right, actually. I didn't drink the drugged wine either. I called Ji Yu Kai and told him that the project my dad gave to Han Song-chen could be his, and he came quickly. So, this is the scene you see now. Fang Xiaoyun slumped to the ground, shaking her head and muttering, "No, it's impossible. How could this plan have leaked out?" I smiled and said, "Xiaoyun, no matter how much you calculated, you never expected that the Ji Yu Kai who said he loved you is much more realistic than you, right?" I turned my head and looked at the man on the bed whom I had once loved desperately. My heart was filled with bitterness. Ji Yu Kai's phone password had never been changed. On the night he begged me to forgive him, I opened his phone for the first time. I took Fang Xiaoyun out of the blacklist, and I saw their chat records. Ji Yu Kai, I've come up with a way to make Qiao Shuang lose her reputation completely, so that you can divorce her justifiably. Just let her sleep in the same bed as my ex-husband. I'll find someone to do a live broadcast and make them never recover. Ji Yu Kai, are you crazy? Qiao Shuang is my wife, and I won't divorce her. Fang Xiaoyun, don't lie to me. Okay, Ji Yu Kai, my hands are shaking now. You were the one who told me to get divorced. You said you would marry me. Now I have nothing. I really only have you left. Ji Yu Kai, damn it, stop pestering me. It's your ex-husband who caused me to lose the project that was already in my hands. Do you know how much money I lost? Fang Xiaoyun, that's why I said let them both lose their reputations. Ji Yu Kai, get lost. Upon learning the truth, Fang Xiaoyun's legs went weak, and she slumped to the ground. Tears streamed down her face, making her look pitiful. She cried and shouted at Ji Yu Kai, questioning him. Did you really never love me even for a single day? Were all the years we spent together fake? Ji Yu Kai turned his face away, not daring to look at her, and said, I never loved you. Sleeping with you was just for the thrill. Men are much more realistic than women. Fang Xiaoyun stood up reluctantly and roared, No, it's impossible. You said you loved me. After saying that, with overwhelming hatred in her eyes, she turned her head and looked at me. Almost in an instant, she picked up a vase from the hotel and threw it to the ground. The vase shattered instantly, and the water in it splashed everywhere, causing the scene to be in chaos for a while. She picked up a piece of the fragment, shouting and rushing towards me. Since he doesn't love me, you won't be able to get his love either. No, be careful. Two men shouted simultaneously. The moment the fragment fell, I instinctively closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I saw blood spreading on the ground. I looked up and met Han Songchen's gaze. He covered his wound and asked me cautiously, "Are you okay?" Tears suddenly filled my eyes, and my fingers trembled as I stroked the injured area. The warm blood kept flowing. And I was crying so hard that I couldn't speak. "Call an ambulance. Hurry, call an ambulance." Everyone was stunned with fear, including the netizens in the live broadcast room. At this time, Ji Kai had already controlled the crazy Fang Xiaoyun. The others were also in a hurry to call 120 and 110. A month later, outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, "Can't we not get a divorce?" Shuang. Ji Kai's broad hand gripped my slender wrist. "No, I remember when you proposed to me, I asked you a question. Did you say that you would only love me for the rest of your life? What did you say?" He paused for a moment and remembered that year when he firmly said to me, "Who else could I love if I don't love you? You are the only one I love in my life." But Ji Kai's life of love for me was a bit short, only 3 years. He felt a bit melancholy, and more than that, he was regretful. His eyes suddenly turned red, and he sobbed, "I'm sorry, Qiao Shuang, I betrayed you. And I deserve to be in this situation today." I gently pushed his hand away, with a look of melancholy on my face. The boy who brought me breakfast every day in high school, fetched me hot water, and was the first to stand up for me when I was bullied had long since drifted away. The most memorable time was after he confessed to me and I agreed. He was more than 1,000 kilometers away, couldn't get a ticket, but still stood for more than 10 hours and came to the city where I was studying to celebrate my birthday. I believe there is true love in this world, but true love can change in an instant. Forget it, Ji Kai. Our story ends here. I resolutely stepped into the Civil Affairs Bureau. He slowly followed me in. In his extremely reluctant state, we got the divorce certificate. We came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau together. He looked at the foggy and rainy day and finally burst into tears, pulling me into his arms. "I can't live without you, Qiao Shuang." Just then, a supercar roared over and stopped beside us. Ji Kai immediately held back his tears. When I saw that it was Han Songchen, a smile immediately appeared on my face, and I ran towards him, saying, "I thought you weren't coming." "Then let your husband accompany me, Tilda," Han Songchen said in a sarcastic tone. Amidst Ji Kai's endless regret, I got into someone else's car. "Let's go, my dad is still waiting for us at home." During this period, my dad had been keeping a close eye on the project managed by Han Songchen. Compared with the projects that Ji Kai had been in charge of before, Han Songchen was really dedicated. Just looking at the profits, they had increased several times compared to before. At the dinner table, my dad couldn't stop smiling and praised him as a young talent. Looking back, my dad had never looked at Ji Kai directly and always felt unhappy. At first, I was determined to marry Ji Kai. And my dad could only go along with my wishes. Now that we have settled things with the Ji family, our family business has been getting better and better. During the meal, Han Songchen mentioned, "Uncle Qiao, I heard that you liked playing with supercars when you were young. How about we have a race?" I immediately stopped him and said, "My dad is getting old, don't drag him into this nonsense." My dad wasn't happy when he heard this and said, "You little girl, what are you talking about? How am I old? Let's race. Let's do it today, boy. I'll show you that Shuang's dad is never someone who will admit defeat." He even stamped his foot in a hurry, making our whole family burst into laughter. That night, my mom and I were at the finish line, and we waited for my dad and Han Songchen one after another. Han Songchen got out of the driver's seat, took off his helmet, clasped his fists together, and kept praising, "Uncle, you're so skilled. We younger generations really need to learn from you." My dad also got out of the car. He was very pleased to hear the praise. He also said modestly, "Not at all. The younger generation is formidable. The younger generation is formidable." My dad immediately commanded me, saying, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and pass some water to Xiao Han and wipe his sweat." Han Songchen changed his words according to the situation and said, "Thank you, Dad." The end.